what has happened like post the new atheism movement? Is that movement still alive?
That movement sort of turned into a shell or a ghost of its former self, with some of these old atheist groups still existing on paper, but not having the same oomph, the same energy, the same accomplishments, the same cultural significance that they used to have. You had Christians and theocrats that were pouring religion down our throats. Well, we wanted to be quiet, or certain anti-woke atheists needed to be quiet in the name of combating woke. So radical Christianity that wants to take away the 19th Amendment, radical Christianity that wants to criminalize homosexuality, radical Christianity in the US that's saying dinosaurs never even existed in the first place. Forget the gay marriage debate. There's no longer this kind of wishy-washy, weird middle ground that I've noticed that PragerU is promoted, that Jordan Peterson is promoted, where you sort of believe, but you sort of don't believe, and you're Judeo-Christian this or Judeo-Christian that. This is how radical some of these people are in 2025 in these echelons of the internet. And then you could say, well, Tom, they're on the internet. Who cares? They've gotten people to infiltrate.
There was the new atheists, right? So this was Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens. There was this like crew of people that came along and they defined the modern atheism movement. And then that kind of like in the last couple of years has maybe gone through some like kind of rocky times. This is a little bit where we left off with our previous conversation. What has happened like post the new atheism movement? Is that movement still alive? Is this still the same movement just continuing forward? Or are we in like a new atheism movement?
I would say more of the second option of what you said there. I think new atheist might be a way to describe it. I'll get into a very brief history lesson, but don't want to get too much into the ramblings, because a lot of the ramblings actually to talk about what that old movement was about can actually be found in my previous interview with you, as well as plenty of conversations I've had in like 2021, 2022, 2023. That movement of online atheism blowing up on the internet and atheism becoming a cultural phenomenon in the West from around 2005 to, I would say, 2016 was part of it was part of the new atheist movement, but it was something that my friend Dr. Peter Boghossian, who's also on AFL's advisory board, calls Culture War 1.0. Debates about science versus creationism in public schools, us talking about religion's role in public policy. This is right after as well the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and also a reaction to the old religious right sprouting up in government. It made atheism and being an atheist YouTuber, content creator, activist, policy advocate, philosopher, anything in those territories of the culture look not only legitimate, but really cool. It was cool to be an atheist fighting back against bad, crummy, crappy, religious, fairy tale type ideas. And a lot of people blew up. Their careers became prominent as a result of that. But with that movement growing in prominence and with us achieving so many victories came a kind of social justice split. Critical social justice activists infiltrated the atheist movement, said the atheist movement wasn't progressive or forward-thinking or accepting enough, which led to multi-million-dollar think tanks and organizations split, certain initiatives and conferences kind of being destroyed or like lessening in their attendance or the monetary value that they were receiving, splits on YouTube, lots of culture war drama online. And by around 2016, 2017, that movement sort of turned into a shell or a ghost of its former self, with some of these old atheist groups still existing on paper, but not having the same oomph, the same energy, the same accomplishments, the same cultural significance that they used to have. So that critical social justice split happened. The might of and unity of that atheist movement kind of died. And what ended up happening is a new culture war kind of started. Peter Boghossian calls this Culture War 2.0. I would argue we're not in this culture war anymore, but it lasted from around the latter 2010s, maybe you could say 2017, 18, 19, all the way into, I would argue, 2023 or 2024. And that culture war was mainly concerned around wokeism or anti-wokeism, people that were against this critical social justice theory, destroying the West and destroying our institutions in the US and around the world, and destroying everything, every kind of hobby group you can imagine, from knitting to Magic the Gathering to Nerf guns to anything you can imagine. this ideology seeped through so many different groups and institutions in a professional way, but also in a very casually nerdy kind of way. And you had non-woke or anti-woke atheists kind of team up and work alongside even libertarian Christians, conservative Christians, socially or classically liberal free speech advocates in a heterodox and intellectual way to kind of safeguard the very Enlightenment framework that allows you to speak about any idea that's possible. So there was kind of this alliance that kind of existed. And then on the other end, on the critical social justice side, you had certain woke atheists, you could say, or CSJ atheists, team up with woke progressives, religious progressives, and other people like that. And the debate was mainly concerned around freedom of speech and the freedom to criticize the sensitivity of certain things in debates and discussions and ideas without your career being destroyed. And it was a reaction to what happened in the atheist movement in that first culture war, that split in 2016-17, that led myself and others to come together to form Atheists for Liberty. And we kind of came into the culture war zeitgeist in kind of a nice guy kind of way. We're here because we care about free speech too, and you should have the freedom to say whatever you want to believe, like we should have the freedom to say what we want to believe. And that was great. But the problem with us is that I feel like we were the only people, we the atheists were the only ones that were playing by these culture war 2.0. Let's talk about the things we agree on, not what we disagree on kind of rules. Mm-hmm. And so I would argue that throughout, especially the latter years of that second culture war, we were being disrespected, completely disrespected. You had Christians and theocrats that were pouring religion down our throats while we wanted to be quiet, or certain anti-woke atheists needed to be quiet in the name of combating woke. And it got even worse because you start to see certain incidents, like in 2023, people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali converting to Christianity because of woke being a problem. So you started to see, whether in the name of people actually believing it, I would also argue certain people just playing the game of politics in an effort to do this. Me in 2023, and me being on your show, Peter, speaking out against this kind of grift that we were noticing, and how this anti-woke culture was going to kind of die and split because of that issue, because of this kind of disrespect. And I would argue another rift in that second culture war happened, with now anti-woke liberals and anti-woke conservatives being split. Even within conservatism, milquetoast conservative movement people now being split from dissident right people, although I never really liked those dissident right people to begin with, and they always kind of hated us to begin with. And not to mention their views, a lot of their views are just abhorrent. I'm talking about theocracy. I'm talking about a lot of other disgusting views. Mm-hmm. So it was inevitable that second culture war would kind of rift off. But when I was on your show, we were still kind of in that. And what's happening now, though, is I think people, especially a lot of young people, are pushing for a sense of politics and a sense of cultural dialogue and conversation where you feel like you're not being marketed to. You feel like you're not being like brought into this astroturfed conversation where we're going to only pretend what we want to say for the sake of what our donors may want, or what our media supporters are telling us to say, or what our agents are telling us to say. I tweeted about this recently, how some people have changed their values because of their agents. I have an agent too. Maybe I change my strategy or my approach or my talking points. I don't change my values due to my agent. And so we're in now a third culture war, where you're seeing people side with either a very radical form of religion, so radical Christianity that wants to take away the 19th Amendment, radical Christianity that wants to criminalize homosexuality, radical Christianity in the US that's saying dinosaurs never even existed in the first place. Forget the gay marriage debate. Forget any of that other stuff that the old religious right fought for. You're seeing these intellectual, soft, really atheists that are like trying to have this Christian shell, I would argue provide a pipeline for that, which are pissing off, quite frankly, a lot of Christians. You're seeing that crazy form of Christianity on one end and crazy form of religion on one end, versus what I would argue now, very similarly to what happened after the old religious right propped up, an atheist reaction on the other end to this. So you look at Alex O'Connor, aka Cosmic Skeptics YouTube channel. Several months ago, he just hit 1 million subscribers. He's been making content since, I think, 2014. So he hit 1 million subscribers. And now, just a few months later, he's at 1.5 million subscribers. So he's already halfway to that double that mark that he's had to spend 9 years, basically 9 years getting to. I believe it's 9 years. because people are so interested in atheist content again, all that atheist stuff from the 2000s now coming back, but being packaged in a new way, particularly, I think, because people, they want a sense of community, they want a sense of belonging, but they also want the truth. They want the truth to prevail. And so people are pissed off at being lied to. The Christians are pissed off at being lied to by a corporate marketed conservative movement that tried to make Christianity only palatable in a certain form, which has, I think, led to more radical forms of Christianity being accepted. Whereas now you're seeing Atheists for Liberty, you're seeing me, but you're seeing Alex, you're seeing so many of these other atheist content creators, atheists that really showed Jordan Peterson a few months ago on Jubilee, how debating really goes against actual heterodox people, the door, essentially. You're seeing an atheist reaction to that, which I think is phenomenal. So this is Thomas Sheedy taking his gloves off now. I think we are done with that old culture war. We can still be nice to our friends, but we need to stop nerfing our values in an effort to appease certain people.
Yeah, I noticed that you recently had Destiny on a live stream with Atheists for Liberty, and he, in my mind, I get a lot of entertainment out of him. I know that he rubs people the wrong way in a lot of different respects, but to me, he's very entertaining. And one thing about him that's entertaining is that he does just always perpetually have his gloves off, which is great for online content. Right. But do you think that that's sort of an approach? Do you think that it actually brings people in, or are you ever worried about ostracizing people by having a gloves off approach?
I think it's needed and I think it's necessary. And I think it's just due to simple psychology and simple marketing. The way that the old atheist movement got their efforts to be so successful is you had more controversial atheist outlets and organizations at the time state very outlandish but true things about religion. The atheist billboard campaigns that happened around 13, 14 years ago, getting atheists to then be recognized on the news to talk about certain subjects and to pull the Overton window in the atheist normalcy direction. That then also caused certain people to not like the fiery atheists, but to then find certain other kinds of atheists to be more palatable. So that kind of marketing and that kind of strategy actually helped out all these other kinds of atheists. It's a debate that's always going to be prevalent in atheist circles till the end of time.
100%.
But I studied this phenomenon for 12 years. And you need to think about this, everybody. In many cases, every time this kind of nicey nice gloves on approach has happened, we've been nothing but disrespected. We've been nothing but belittled. People won't talk about what we're trying to talk about. We end up getting sidetracked and having to talk about the things that other more passionate people talk about. Meanwhile, now, all of a sudden, when we have somebody like Destiny on, and you don't have to agree with Destiny's politics, by the way, we're going to have people that even disagree with Destiny's politics and platform them in other future events. We're going to be doing another event soon in the coming months. But just anybody in this new kind of debate kind of style way, all of a sudden, people are Googling Atheists for Liberty more. All of a sudden, people are becoming members of Atheists for Liberty more. All of a sudden, people are joining our Discord more. All of a sudden, people are starting to get involved more. Instead of seeing that we exist, seeing that we have values, but being so nice in the anti-woke war of ideas that they could just join a different organization that also wants to protect free speech, that also wants to combat the woke, right? And that's the problem that we had. All of a sudden, when we stopped caring about that, all of a sudden, when we started to be more honest about that, all of a sudden, when we actually tried to attack Christianity more, and rightly so, just like we attack Islam, just like we go after any kinds of bad dogmas or ideologies that we still proudly do at AFL, all of a sudden now we are having way more success. All of a sudden, Thomas Sheedy gets to go on more of these shows and not just talk about the values of AFL, like as if AFL premiered yesterday and not a few years ago, but where we're moving the needle to where we're doing the very atheist activism that not only other atheist groups aren't doing, but other heterodox and pro-enlightenment values groups aren't doing, because we're saying the things that need to be said. And then you could join our Discord server where you realize that there's different types of people in our organization that have different personalities and ways to go about things. So it's a win-win scenario for everybody. If you're a mainly young man on the internet in a Western country, or particularly in the US, and you're either college educated or not college educated, and you feel kind of hopeless in the world, you feel like you don't have a sense of purpose or belonging, and you're being marketed to. There's people that are grifting online that are just trying to have every kind of catchy YouTube thumbnail available for you to click and to spend more of your dopamine on a daily basis, because everything is just getting so competitive at this point. And with religion now being at the forefront of this, because of radical theocrats, but also with atheism still just becoming a more reality every single day, the Bible is going to get in your hand one way or another. And you're going to open that Bible as a young man. Young women too, but I'm just seeing this as a phenomenon mostly around young men, but this also young people in general. But you're going to open that Bible and you're going to read it. And you're either going to come to one of two conclusions. One, you're either going to become a natural skeptic and you're going to see the Bible. You're going to see that it's very fairy tale, Bronze Age based, has nothing to do with anything you've learned in science class, nothing to do with anything you've learned or observed in modern Western society. And you're going to probably become an atheist. You know, you might not, maybe you'll use the label, maybe you won't use the label, but you will become a natural skeptic and see the pointlessness of the Bible. Or you are likely going to become a radical, Christ is king, repeal the 19th Amendment, repeal homosexuality, Groyper or Crucible supporter type of Orthodox or Catholic activist. There's no longer this kind of wishy-washy, weird middle ground that I've noticed that PragerU is promoted, that Jordan Peterson is promoted, where you sort of believe, but you sort of don't believe, and you're Judeo-Christian this or Judeo-Christian that, and you're going to believe in the view of the Bible or the metaphor of the Bible, or you're just going to see its utility and in this weird kind of boomery marketed way that no real solid person is actually believing now. I think we are freaking fed up with that now. And I'm speaking not just as an atheist, but as a Gen Z type person. So you're either going to become a skeptic / an atheist / a secularist, or you're going to become part of that, I would say minority, but very vocal minority of Christ is king type follower. And in my view, I actually want to say good. I want to say good because I think more people are going to see the absurdity of religion in this kind of way. As a result of this, I think a lot of this fakeness when it comes to the metaphor stuff has been done due to think tanks pushing it. You could find a story to be pretty, but not believe it.
I actually have not thought about that specifically, but I mean, I think that you're right that when you do hop online, all of the influencers who are religious, they take it to the extreme for the most part.
They're taking it more to the extreme now. They're taking it even further to the extreme than they did a few years ago. And I think one of the problems that I've had when viewing anti-woke atheists kind of grift towards religion in certain cases, I think a lot of it is a total grift. I'll give sympathy to them for one thing, though. And I don't even think it's a majority of non-woke atheists, by the way. I'm talking about a minority, but it's just making the problem worse for us. When you do the same thing and talk about the same subject, I've been an atheist activist for 12 years, since the spring of 2013. So I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. And I've been kind of in politics in general since the fall of 2012. So when you have the same values, the same principles, you still try to yell them out off the rooftops. You mostly stick to the same talking points too, if they're effective as well. You trust the right sources. You see the patheticness and the fake marketing of the wrong sources. But you keep staying on that topic. I can understand that for some human beings, because we are social animals, it burns you out. So I think what ended up happening to a bunch of people is they were atheist activists. They were proud atheist activists. They got kicked out of the atheist movement or canceled out of the old atheist movement due to the critical social justice split. Mm-hmm. They then used their specialty, maybe their academic specialty or their career specialty or activist specialty, to push against a different ideology. Not only did maybe some think that one ideology or one problem or one other religious belief system or whatever was worse than another in the present moment, it was also something new to talk about. It was something new to discuss. It was a break from you as an animal spending 10 years talking about the same subject. So I've tweeted about this too.
He said, like, I just don't talk about religion too much anymore because it got boring. It's like, I totally get it. You know?
And I want to convince them they actually need to talk about it now way more than they ever have 20 years ago now. Like they got to get out of this culture war 2.0 mindset. They got to get into this, what I would call this third mindset.
Is that because of the harms
I think it's psychological.
Is causing? Is that like why you would say that?
Yeah, the harms that religion is causing, and also yeah, the harms that religion is causing in a new, more dangerous way. Okay, so look, I'll give credit. I'll play devil's advocate for the old religious right. A lot of the things that they were pushing for were disgusting and harmful. I'm glad we destroyed and defeated them in so many different ways. The new atheism was a reaction to the religious right and to 9/11 and to Islamism, and we curtailed and destroyed a bunch of that old Protestant boomer 80s religious right. Okay. Religious activists then had to rethink their stuff. And you're now seeing a form of this new religious right via the Groypers, via the Crucible people, via just certain radical Gen Z guys, even though Gen Z is like overwhelmingly secular. Some of these people, guys, they post Christ is King quotes at the same rate that some of them retweet photos of Adolf Hitler walking outside the Berghof with an SS guard unit.
You're right. Good
with
point.
epic music in the background.
Yeah.
And then you look at the comments in like the TikTok or the Instagram reel or the YouTube short that it was posted in, and it's overwhelmingly pro-Hitler. It's overwhelmingly pro-Third Reich.
Which is
overwhelmingly pro this stuff. And credence and credit to the old religious right, the boomer religious right from the 80s. They at least had freedom and liberty and democracy and loving the American Republic in their branding. These guys want to get rid of the American Republic this altogether because they think 1770s America, guys, is too degenerate for them. They view this idea of Enlightenment values as too crazy. They view Thomas Jefferson as a sex addict who threw degenerate parties. This is how radical some of these people are in 2025 in these echelons of the internet. And then you could say, well, Tom, they're on the internet. Who cares? They've gotten people to infiltrate. And I've said this on your I think your last appearance, my last appearance with you. They've gotten people to infiltrate multi-million-dollar think tanks. Nick Fuentes has 2 of his activists in the Trump White House right now. I know actually who one of them is. I wiped him out in a debate. This is serious stuff. This isn't just some internet funny Discord or old 2019 or early AFL talking point or me just being fed up with Christianity. There's a dangerous freaking movement brewing up here. And some of these people are already winning major battles in ways that we haven't seen it before. And this is why Sam Harris and even some of my friends that are in this like heterodox, enlightened academic philosophy, anti-woke, but I'm an atheist, but I don't want to be able to talk about atheism anymore, kind of vibe. Wake the hell up. Wake up. These people want to destroy you. And when these people get into positions of authority and positions of power where maybe not Trump, okay, because Trump is he's an older baby boomer, whatever. These people are 10 times the right of Trump or anybody in the modern conservative movement. Once these people get into power 10, 20, 30 years from now, and if we don't stop them, we could be cooked. We could be cooked. I think we're going to win the war, but there's a very decent chance that we could lose it.
I think so too, and these people still feel like they're the underdogs, which makes them dangerous, I feel like. Sadly, I've got...
Oh, they're just a bunch of kids online. They're not really much of a threat.
I know.
Yeah. It's not 2019 now.